Hey everyone, the other day I was playing around with Chat GPT and I thought, hey, can Chat GPT write me a faction guide? So I tried, and let me just spoil immediately that there were some things I was pretty impressed with, and there were some things, yeah, you will see.
But first, let's have a look at the overall result that I got. First, we have the setup of the game. Then we go into the strategy phase by choosing strategy cards. Then we have expand and explore, establish early alliances, and of course we want alliances in this game. Then we have technology and probably unit upgrades. And now we get into the really important part, which is public objectives and secret objectives. Then we got the agenda phase. Okay, I wouldn't spend too much time worrying about the agenda phase in the first round. Then we have economic growth, and yes, that makes sense. And then as bullet number 10, we got a plan for the next rounds.
So overall, I like the structure provided in the faction guide here, and there are 10 sections in it. So I want to give ChatGPT 1 point each time it provides correct information per section, and 0 points whenever the information is incorrect. So let's see how many points ChatGPT will score in this little experiment.
So what does it want us to do? It says place the game board and distribute the galaxy tiles. So the game board is built up of the galaxy tiles. We are off to a bad start here. Set up the Ghost of Creuss home system and place your starting units. And then it mentions what it is. 1 carrier, yes, that's correct. 2 fighters, yes, that's correct. 1 destroyer, we want 2 destroyers and 1 space dock. And no mention of infantry. Okay, so it got the starting units almost correct. And then gain your starting resources, 3 trade goods, and draw your secret objectives. Okay, I don't know what kind of homebrew rules ChatGPT is playing with, but we're not getting any trade goods. But of course that could be a compensation for the 4 missing infantry and destroyer. And then it is correct with the secret objectives. We just need to return 1 of them.
I really like that the starting units were included because it shows a deeper understanding of the game, and it is really important information. It's just a shame that the information provided was incorrect. And if we go into this level of details, I think starting technologies and possibly the faction leaders should have been mentioned as well. So ChatGPT, 0 points here.
And then we go into the strategy phase. During the strategy phase, Ghost of Creuss typically benefit from strategy cards that enhance mobility or expansion.
And this is quite vague, but it could be referring to the warfare strategy card so that we can lift the token from the game board and move the same fleet once more. Or maybe it's referring to the technology card so that we can research 1 or 2 technologies in the blue tech tree. And now ChatGPT has invented a new strategy card for us. It's the initiative strategy card, and I have given it -1. And with this card, you can pick strategy card as the first one in every single strategy phase for the rest of the game. But unfortunately, ChatGPT didn't specify a secondary ability, so I took the liberty of filling in the gaps here, and I thought, what could be more fitting than that all the other players must pay a token from the strategy pool to be able to participate in the upcoming strategy phase. And finally, it suggested that we could pick the diplomacy strategy card so that we could secure key systems. But I wouldn't even go for that card in round 1 to secure a system. Instead, I will of course use the card to unexhaust 2 planets so that I could use the resources once more during that game round. As the final recommendation, the trade strategy card is finally mentioned, but I think it's way too far down into the details so that any new players will pick up how good this card actually is. And if you want to know that, then you can watch my faction guide for the ghosts up here. But in overall, I really like that ChatGPT included picking strategy cards in the first round. It's just a shame that it was wrong on so many levels. So 0 points for that. So ChatGPT figured that the Ghost of Creuss can do something special with the wormholes. I'm just not sure if ChatGPT also knows that we got those 3 extra Creuss wormholes that we can also place out on the game board. But yes, sure, we should of course use them strategically.
Then it says deploy your carrier and other ships through wormholes to reach distant systems quickly.
And this must be Malice, even though it's not mentioned by name. But I think it's important that ChatGPT highlights that the Ghost of Creuss is the only faction who can reach Malice in the first round for sure. Other factions need to do some exploration first. But of course, it would have been better if
it had mentioned the name Malice. It could have been clearer that we want to go for the planets with the most resources and or influence, but the information is correct, even though it is a little vague. So I'll give it half a point. And moving on to point number 4, establish early alliances, negotiate non-aggression pacts or trade agreements with neighboring players.
And to this, I'll just say, yes, do both.
And then it says Ghost of Creuss can benefit from sharing wormhole access, creating diplomatic ties, and potentially avoiding early conflicts.
And yes, I agree with this as well. I'll just add that the Ghost of Creuss does not have exclusive access to wormholes. All the other factions can do that as well. But of course, we do benefit from having ships in wormholes. And yes, we can allow other players to either place or move wormholes around the game board with our promissory node. And in this way, we can grant them access to wormholes they wouldn't otherwise not have access to. But I think this is a weird way to say it, but I feel happy today, and I'll give Chat GPT 1 point for this.
And let's move on to point number 5, technology and upgrades. It says prioritize technology that enhances your mobility and allows you to exploit the advantages of wormholes.
Yes, the Ghosts wants to research blue technologies. For instance, getting their wormhole generator, which is really powerful, requires 2 other blue technologies before they can get it. So I find this a little vague, but it is still correct.
Then it says consider researching gravity drive and dimensional splicer early on to improve your fleet's movement and combat capabilities.
ChatGPT suggests that we research gravity drive, but this is our starting technology, so that is just pure nonsense. But in general, gravity drive is a pretty good technology, and I would recommend it for all other factions. Then we are suggested to research our dimensional splicer faction technology, and I think this is a good tip, also because the guide already recommended that we had units in systems with wormholes in them. Overall, I find the tips given to technology and upgrades to be both wrong and vague. There were a little bit of correct information, but not enough to score 1 point. So ChatGPT, 0 points for technology and upgrades.
Public objectives. Keep an eye on for public objectives and plan your expansion and actions accordingly.
This is 100% true. It is true for all factions though, but it's still so important to remember this when we're playing this game. And then it says, aim to score points by securing planets, controlling systems, or completing objectives that align with your strength. And I just think that this shows a complete lack of understanding on how scoring points in this game works. And I highly doubt that any new players would understand what we meant if we tried to explain it like this. So ChatGPT, 0 points for this.
Let's move on to the secret objectives. Tailor your actions to achieve your secret objectives without revealing your plans to other players.
Yes, I totally agree with this. But sometimes it is a little bit too obvious what we're trying to accomplish, especially for experienced players, because they know what secret objectives that are in the game. But of course, we do try to keep it a secret as long as possible.
And then it says use the flexibility of your ghost's racial abilities to surprise opponents and achieve objectives.
Yes, sure, ChatGPT. But what racial abilities are you referring to here? Is it the quantum entanglement so that we can enter an alpha wormhole and exit a beta wormhole? I don't know. So you have to be more specific here. We should always use our faction abilities to its very best, but not only for scoring secret objectives, but we should do it through the entire game. So the information here is not incorrect, but I think it is a little bit confusing. So I will give you half a point.
And it says prepare for the agenda phase, familiarize yourself with the Propecy of Kings expansions, new political and action cards.
Yes, Propecy of Kings added new agendas, as I think the political cards are referring to here, and it also added and removed some of the action cards. But I don't think we should get familiar with those cards alone. Then you should get familiar with all the cards in the game. And that is simply way too much to ask for a new player. So I think this tip is pretty irrelevant to put in this guide.
And then it says use your influence wisely during the agenda phase to sway outcomes in your favor.
Yes, sure, I agree with this, but I wouldn't think too much about the agenda phase in round 1, as Megasaur Rex is rarely taken this early in the game. So overall, I think ChatGPT has failed here, and that gives 0 points.
Invest in trade agreements and consider using the trade strategy card to improve your economic situation. And then it says build additional fleets and ground forces to secure and hold strategic positions.
And I agree with both statements here. I think the trade strategy card is a really strong pick in round 1. And of course, we should build additional fleets and ground forces to hold our strategic positions or systems. So in this instance, I think Chat GPT is right. It is a no-brainer though, but it's still worth 1 point.
The last point is number 10. Plan for the next rounds. Lay the groundwork for your future strategy, considering the objectives and potential threats. And it also says, be adaptable and ready to adjust your plans based on the evolving game state.
Yes, I agree with this. And predicting what to do in round 2 and forward in this game is very hard to do because there are so many variables. So I won't be too hard on Chat GPT here and say this is true and something to follow and give you 1 point for this. I think I have been friendly and given Chat GPT the benefit of the doubt. Would I recommend using Chat GPT for writing faction guides? That's a definitive no. I mean, missing the 4 infantry during setup of the game was a critical mistake, and so was the recommendations for the strategy cards. So after that, I pretty much lost all trust I had in this guide. But I think it was a fun experiment to do, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel. Good luck with your games out there, and you can watch some real faction guides up here.